and welcome to today's session, 3.1 Funding Options for Your Business. My name is Tara Longo. Thanks for joining. Today's session is to help with funding options for your existing business. I ran a bricks and mortar business in the city of Toronto for 14 years on Eglinton Avenue West. So I know how important planning and funding for your business is. Growth is expensive, and as an entrepreneur, you always need to have a plan to ensure you can grow how you want with the financial support that you need. So with those initial points in mind, let's dive deeper into what you can do to get some funding. Now, in my business, we were offered money in the early days, and we didn't take it, mostly because we didn't know what to do with it. Did we want another location? Did we want to diversify? If that ever happens to you, I would take the money and figure out what to do with it after the fact. But the reality is that most of the time, when you need money, you can't find it or get it. There are three things that need to happen before you can get funding. It is absolutely imperative, first off, to have a good reason to get money. No one in any situation will give you money for normal day-to-day operations. They are assuming that you have a business and you are profitable, covering your costs and making money. So in order to get money, you need a reason. It could be to open another location, or to get a delivery vehicle, or to renovate your current location. It could even be for things like doing a marketing campaign in which you've never done one before. In any case, whatever your reason is for obtaining funds, you do need a reason. People will ask you right off the bat, why do you need the money? And the answer needs to be a good one. The second thing you need is that you need your financials ready to go. Most of the time, when situations arise or when opportunities arise and you need the money, you won't have time to redo the financials to make them look nice. So this means you always need accurate financials ready to go. Now, the timeline on these numbers varies, but most funding options will require 2 years of profitable financials. And the last step before you go and get funding is to determine what kind of funding you are willing to get, which is why you are here today watching this video. So let's talk about loans first. They tend to be the type of financing most readily available to entrepreneurs, whether through the Business Development Bank of Canada or Futurepreneur, or through your local bank. And the first thing I suggest to every entrepreneur is to get the biggest amount of credit they can on their credit cards and a line of credit. Even if you don't need them, they are great backups in case you ever need to draw on cash in a last-minute pinch. So, my advice is to line them up when business is good or you are just starting out. Now, loans obviously have two components to them, the principal and the interest component. And you need to make sure that the business can support paying both parts back. The profits you generate from this loan will need to cover both of them. So each time you think about taking a loan or borrowing money, you should do an analysis on the project for the reason for the loan and make sure it financially makes sense. Now, this sounds like common sense, and it is, but oftentimes business owners get enticed by a new idea or opportunity and don't spend the time to do the math. Currently, rates on loans are in and around the 10 to 12% mark, but they fluctuate all the time with overall interest rates. You might be able to get things like specials from BDC where it would be no principal for 12 months. So that would mean you'd be given extra time to generate profits, and it would be a nice deal to you and your business. So always be on the lookout for some of these specials. For most loans, you will need 2 years of profitable financial statements. And if you aren't generating profits, then unfortunately, this traditional line of business financing will not be available to you. The positive things about loans is that you don't need to give up any of your business or have any shareholders to report to. So as long as you can run the business and make your payments, you are in a great spot for a loan. The negative thing about loans is that they do require payments, whether you have the cash or not. So there isn't an option of skipping payments or deferring. So that means you need to be committed to the plan you set out and why you got the loan and make sure that business is profitable. The other thing to consider is the interest rates, especially when they're variable. It can be hard to forecast 1 month if your interest is 5% and the next year it's 12%. And we've seen a lot of volatility in the past few years. So again, with each loan, please take a look at and make sure that your repayment terms make sense. I've included some links in the video description with a few loan programs. Please check them out. I hope that they're helpful. And now we're going to look at grants. Grants are wonderful options for funding your business. This is when you are given money for certain criteria, and most of the time this money is gifted, meaning it does not need to be paid back. There are lots of grants to pick from. The only issue is the criteria, as each grant tends to be very specific, for example, in manufacturing or for a certain industry. Grants should not be expected. I would take them purely as a business bonus because you may just as easily get it as you don't get it. And that would be awful to plan a growth strategy around receiving a grant and not get it. In the video description, I've also put a few links to some different grant sites. And there is a lot of information to filter through. Sometimes there are application fees, other times not, but there is often a big time component to apply for a grant. It may take 1 week to fill out the grant application, but if you get it, obviously that week of work was well worth it. There are also grants for projects after they are completed. For example, if you're making a new product, you might have to make it first, get it documented on how you made it and how many hours, and include detailed notes, and then get reimbursed by the grant provider. All right, and now on to equity investments. Basically, equity is when you give someone a portion of your business, and it can be for various reasons, like they are bringing a skill set you don't have, or quite simply money. In my situation, we gave equity to our head butcher in and around year 5 of our business, as it was crucial to our business to have a butcher aligned with the profits, as they can make or break a business. So he invested some money into the business and he got equity in return. And then we had an amazing partner in the processing side of the business looking out for our bottom line. So it was a win for the business all around. Basically, when you give someone equity, you are giving them shares and part ownership of your business for cash. And in order to do that, you need to place a value on your business. Now, valuing your business is a hard thing to do, and there are lots of parameters like 10 times earnings or 5 times EBITDA or all these other phrases investors throw around. In reality, a retail store location, someone paying you would want their money back within 3 to 5 years. So for example, if someone gave you $30,000, they would want to get back the $30,000 plus profits in that 3 to 5 years, according to the percentage they own, obviously. Once you're able to calculate this value, you can reach out to those who might be interested and see about getting some money for the business. Now, the equity partners can be silent or quiet partners not operating in your business, or they can be in your business. And you need to determine what is important to you. Like I mentioned, our partner was our butcher, and he was obviously working daily in the business, which is what we wanted. Once you've got an equity partner, all the profits get split amongst you percentage-wise. So if they own 10%, they get 10% of the profits. The good thing about equity financing is that potentially you can get more money than you could with a loan. It should also be more flexible, and investors may be helpful working in the business. The possible downside is that you are giving up part of your business, and you might have to pay them out before you even pay yourself out. So it would be prudent to have all your financials exactly where you want them and to pay yourself exactly what you want before bringing on an equity partner. So where can you find equity investors? Obviously, they can be a group of people, a group of family or friends or coworkers, as I've already mentioned, but it could also be from people who call themselves angels. Angel investors understand that small businesses have a high risk of failure. So ultimately, an angel investor needs to feel confident that the upside or the rewards from investing are going to outweigh the downside risks. They are complete outsiders to your business. Now, angels can look at a few questions that can really help them drive their decision making, such as, is there a great founder or management team? Many investors consider the team more important than the product or service. Does your team have the right skills or experience to grow the business? Are you committed for the long haul? Another question they may ask is, how big is the market opportunities? Investors are always looking for a business that can scale and become meaningful. So make sure up front you address why your business has the potential to become really big. Angels can also look at the achievements so far of the business. Are you the best on the street? The best in Toronto? What kind of recognition have you achieved? Another question is, does the investor know the entrepreneur? If not, entrepreneur, have they been referred by a trusted colleague? This will make you get further down that angel investment path. And finally, as we mentioned earlier, the numbers. and your business pitch. We've seen videos of entrepreneurs on Dragon's Den who get held up by their numbers and it ruins the deal. You need to know your numbers. Another question would be, how will my investment capital be used and what progress will be made with that capital? Angel investors are great options for equity financing, but they are more difficult to find. But if you can find one and make a deal, it can be great for you. And finally, the last component to discuss today is crowdfunding. And this is a relatively new way to source equity funds. Crowdfunding is the practice of funding a business or adventure by raising money from a large number of people, typically via the internet. Crowdfunding can be debt or equity, but most of the time it is equity. Basically, you are raising money and giving up equity in small portions. It is a very viable option when larger investors are not providing the capital. But it could also be very fruitful if you had a large customer base and that customer base wanted to see you grow and expand. So for example, you have a food store and you wanted to open a kiosk at a special event, or you wanted to open a second location. You could fundraise on a crowdfunding site to get smaller donations, and then those donating would be part of your equity. There are obviously fees to be paid to the outsourcing platform, typically a percentage, and they normally help with the legalities of it as well, so you're not left by yourself. The harder part of this is to manage these group of people who you now need to report to, and you need to deal with them as they are shareholders in your business. This has, however, been a very fruitful opportunity for businesses over the past few years, but it probably does come with the biggest time commitment and challenges, given all the other options we've discussed. To me, it's a last resort, but it shouldn't be disqualified as a viable option. If you want to read more, I'm also attaching a link to a great BDC article on crowdfunding. Overall, I would like to conclude by saying that if you're thinking about any of these options, whether it be loans, grants, or some equity, it's a very exciting time for you and your business. Don't be afraid to go out there and ask lots of questions to help you determine the best way to move forward. Thanks for watching and good luck.